Episode 6 of the R&B Divas. It's Miss Tina Turner, the rocker. Welcome to Something Came from Baltimore. My name is Tom Gouker, and I am your host. Something Came from Baltimore is a jazz, blues, and R&B podcast and radio show, and it's not really about Baltimore. About 3 years ago, Something Came from Baltimore completed the R&B Teddy Bears, and in that series, we reviewed the music careers of Gerald Levert, Teddy Pendergrass, Isaac Hayes, Barry White, and Luther Vandross. The tagline was, "The women love him, and the guys like him too." That series was a great success, and you can find those shows in the Something Came from Baltimore archives. It's only fair that we talk about the R&B divas, and tonight it's our final diva. It's Miss Tina Turner, the rocker. This is a voice of music collage, and you will hear my voice along with you. The following people contributed to the series, and I want to thank them all. I know we're cutting into Tina time. It's Kelly Bell from the Kelly Bell Blues Band, music critic and author Christian Gerard, band leader Albin Jones, the genre buster, it's Darnell Miller, the rapping professor Eartha Holly, jazz pianist Lafayette Gilchrist, band leader and educator Eddie Morgan, the former A&R gospel manager Jim Henry, the man with a voice, it's Marcellus, the bassman Shepard, and you can't forget Duke Benjamin, the Funkmeister. Now, let's get into the episode.
In the wake of her comeback, just the sort of, the feeling of redemption, she made it back when she performed on the Grammys, and got those standing ovations. And she went through a lot, and I'll always respect her a great deal. She was a big part of my sort of musical upbringing. I had my parents' music when I was younger, but then in the 80s, when MTV hit, I sort of discovered my music, and somehow Tina Turner came into my music, even though she's from a prior generation, and obviously she came through with big hits, with Let's Stay Together, sort of brought her back, and then number one with What's Love Got to Do with It. And then I discovered some of her old stuff. I bought some of her old records with Ike, and it's just amazing. The way that she did those rock songs, I always thought that the Rolling Stones basically, and other bands like the Beatles, they took these R&B songs and put them into the sort of, white world culture and top 40 mainstream radio. And Tina took them back, She took these rock songs back. She did Come Together. She did A Whole Lot of Love. She did Get Back. She did Proud Mary, of course. And, rocked them, every single one of them. She's an amazing performer.
Living under the fear till nothing else remains.
I love We Don't Need Another Hero. I love that song. like just the song. It's not like, it's Tina Turner. I love that song. And then whoever produced it had her singing the mess out of it. Like,
and a guilty pleasure, We Don't Need Another Hero from the Mad Max soundtrack.
I'm backstage one night at the Chameleon Club in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I'm playing a blues show with the legendary Son Seals. And Son tells me a story about Ike Turner. And a lot of people forget that Ike was a huge star in the R&B world and the rock and roll world before Tina came along. That being said, Tina Turner's voice changed Ike's view on music, life, spiritual. I mean, everything you could think about, that changed him.
And she came from that rockabilly sensibility, if you will, to morph into the star she became. And it was not without the scars that came to her. When she left the rock and roll scene of that style of music that she was doing with Ike, she floundered because she was trying to find her niche, trying to find her lane. I think what she really was doing is she was running from her past, not realizing it was the rock and roll thing is what made you who you were. And she was running from that, trying to smooth those edges out and become more of an R&B, kind of a pop singer. No, you got to bring that thing that got you there with you. And when she figured that out and hit that formula, then she ascended. Her star took off, and she became this amazing front woman that we know today as that solo artist that is just a force unto herself.
If your child ain't all he should be now, this girl will put him right. I'll show him what he could be now. Just give me one night. I'm the gypsy, the acid queen. Pay me before I'm gone. I'm the gypsy, and I'm guaranteed to mend his aching heart.
I love what she did for the Mad Max. Okay, where You Don't Need Another Hero. That ain't it for AJ. The song that I love that she delivered was written for her by The Who. And it was in that incredible movie, Tommy. And she dropped this thing called The Acid Queen that I cannot get enough of. I love the performance that she does in that. If you have not watched that, you can go to YouTube and just type it in. And there's a long one, probably on about 10 minutes, where you really get to see the scene in the movie. My God, that's Tina at her finest to me. I love that. I think that, I believe I put the year down. That's 1976. Here we are in 2021, still resonating from a performance from that long ago. I am so grateful that it was captured in a movie because in essence, that's our video, if you will, and had a chance to see her deliver an incredible performance.
I think her appearance in Tommy, I will never forget that as a kid. I will never forget that as a kid. That was amazing.
For me personally, I was such a fan of the Private Dancer record. One of my all-time favorite records. I'd probably listen to that as much as any other from when I grew up. And there's a song on there called "A Steel Claw," which it's sort of a rocker. It's sort of almost like a cinematic kind of track. It's sort of an odd one. The production doesn't really stand up. It was written by Paul Brady. I really like that song. She did it on, I think she did it on Carson. And it just blows me away. Her performance on it just rocks.
You must understand the touch of your hand makes my pulse react. That it's only the thrill of boy meeting girl It's physical.
And that's her story in a nutshell. What's love got to do with it? If you really think about it.
What's love got to do with it? When I listen to her sing that song, I swear she's telling the story of her and Ike. When you listen to the lyrics and just sit back, you get your nice little drink there, you put that on, you put the lights down low, listen to the lyrics and listen to her sing that song. I really believe she's telling a story, and I think when you tell your truth, that's why it resonates with so many people, and it's such the hit that it is.
And then what's love got to do with it? It's kind of a sad song. It's a pessimistic song, really, but it's a pop classic. You know, it's a well done record.
Love got to do with it.
I do enjoy the Ike and Tina experience more than her solo work, but I am going to put one of her solo pieces in here. What's love got to do with it, right? Because this was like her coming out, you know, her biggest song of her solo career. You know, it was her stepping out of the spotlight from Ike and all that was there. So definitely gotta put that song out there. And it's a great song too. It's one of those ones you hear it on the radio, listening to one of those soft rock or oldie stations, and you know, you listen to the whole thing, and you know, you move with it, you groove with it, you might even sing along to it. So definitely have to have that in there.
You had to be in front of that TV, and
Yes.
you knew that whatever you're going to see is going to blow your world. And so for that reason, I look at that, like all that stuff is really totally etched in my memory. And Proud Mary with the intro, that slow intro that leads into the jam. It's crazy. 1971.
Very much. Now, I left a good job in the city, working for my man every night and day. I never lost 1 minute of sleep. I was worried about the way that things might have been. Big wheel keep on turning. Proud Mary keep on burning. And we're rolling, yeah. Rolling on the river. Cleaned a lot of plates in Memphis. Pumped a lot of tame down in New Orleans. But I never saw the good side of the city till I hitched a ride on the riverboat Queen. The wheel keep on turning. Proud Mary keep on burning. And we're rolling, yeah. Rolling on the river. So we're rolling, rolling on the river.
Proud Mary also on my list for 2 reasons. Number one, it's probably just my favorite Ike and Tina collab, right?
When I think of Tina, I don't think of her rock and roll stuff after she went to Europe and hit big and then and left Ike. I don't think of that as Tina music, although that's what really made her blow up. I think of the old stuff she did with Ike, Proud Mary, and then, you know, Tina is known nowadays as much as a feminist hero as anything else, especially since, you know, the book I, Tina, and then the movie and the Broadway show.
Again, I guess if we go back to her history, but when she first started with Ike Turner, and they were, I guess, were playing, was it the Chitlin Circuit, perhaps? I don't know if they started there, but he was more of an R&B type band, I think.
He was a blues guy.
Okay, that's what I was thinking more. Also, more blues than where she ended up. When you think of her, all you think is that hair blowing out of her head and her shaking her hips and always having a costume on that had bangles and everything, just going everywhere. And she only seemed like she was 4 feet tall, but she gave the impression of being 6 feet tall. And she had a great shape also, physique, I guess if you want to call it. Okay, and Anna Mae could sing her behind off. And but she couldn't handle the physical abuse, which you can't blame her. But again, here's a lady who's in her 70s now, and she managed to weather the storm. So I have to give it to her. I mean, those are classics. Even when you and I are gone, they'll still be played.
In a lot of ways, she was almost like a rock and roll Eartha Kitt, in a sense, because to pull off the way she could pull off, you gotta be a storyteller, and you gotta tell the story with more than just your vocals per se, but you gotta tell the story with your whole body. And what I mean by that is, even if somebody can't see you, they got to get the sense that this person is moving, some kind of way, and it emanates through her vocals,
Yeah, her shaking those flapper-like dresses was it. But you can't ignore the success and the appeal of the Proud Mary and Ike and Tina Turner. They killed that, man. And people still mimic that. And of course, the fact that she never seen the age and her legs were always out. That's the best way to put it, right?
See, I always thought of her singing as theatrical to a certain extent, right? Because Proud Mary is one of my favorites. Everybody loves that song, man. And it's everything to love about that song.
My songs for Tina, you have to go back. You got to include Proud Mary, okay? That song and the power that they unleashed onto the world was just, I don't know how to describe it. It was just, it's just a tornado, the way it just rips in that groove, and it's the energy and aggression she does when she's performing. The hair is flying, the mini skirt is there, the legs are popping. You're like, what? What is going on here? You just cannot not feel this song, okay?
I would say her version of Proud Mary, and I hate to pick something because it's with Ike, and I know that and we're trying to focus on the divas and all, but to be honest, her version of Proud Mary is a song that gets in your brain and stays in your brain. I'm willing to bet that if you talk to the cats from Creedence, it's completely different from how they did it, but they got it. She saw what Creedence was doing with it, and she did something with it and put her own stank on it.
So all that stuff, that time period is perfect Tina for me, because I don't know, there's very few people I want to watch on TV. I was thinking about it. I got to watch Tina Turner. I don't know any other artist in the 70s that I got that crazy about.
I actually like River Deep Mountain High. I thought that was I think that's a great song.
When I was a little girl, I had a rag doll, only doll I've ever owned. Now I love you just the way I love that rag doll, but only now my love has grown, and it gets stronger in every way, and it gets deeper. Let me say, but it gets higher day by day. And do I love you, my oh my? Yeah, River Deep Mountain High, yeah, yeah. If I lost you, would I cry? Oh, I love you, baby,
River Deep Mountain High is they do the best version that's out there. I don't anyone else do that version. They have yeah, I think they kill it. I mean, the Temps and I guess the Four Tops, everyone had their hands on it.
Yeah,
but they do it the best.
River Deep Mountain High, love that as well. The orchestral accompaniment, is definitely up there. So have to have that in there.
And growing up with her music as well, because my mother was a big fan, she spoke to a lot of, well, I hate to say this, but middle-aged women that are elderly women now. But when she was hot and heavy, they were around about the same age. Most of them don't look like Tina does now. That ain't easy to do. But she was able to reinvent herself over the years, escape the situation that she was in. And there's some controversy even about that situation. And not to mention, she ain't hard to look at, even now,
That whole transition was amazing. Like, the story is not the whole story. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Just,
But when I think of her in the Ike days too, on stage, those wild dresses with the Ikeettes going to town. That's how I always remember her.
Nothing like it. There was nothing like it. And I don't know, people don't realize that there was only 3 channels, and people would look at TV Guide and they would say, oh my God, like Ike and Tina Turner is going to be on the Ed Sullivan Show or like a variety show. And you'd I have to be there. I have to be there to catch it. That's how different it was. There was no VCRs. There's no TVRs. There was no, YouTube.
It was funny, even in Jet magazine back in the day, that was very popular in the Black community. On the back page, they would have a list of the Black artists who would be on TV. And you could put, at that day, you could put all of the artists there on one page because it was only 3 channels. And so whoever was going to be on TV that week would be listed. And you're right, everybody tuned in. Everybody was on at one place at one time looking at one show. And that kind of made it the interesting.
What was going on? Tina had a good solo career, I assume, and her live stuff. Like I said, I never caught on to being a diehard fan of hers, but I do know for a fact that her Ike and Tina stuff was way better than her solo stuff. And you can YouTube any of the Ike and Tina stuff live, and it's bad to the bone. Yeah. And of course, it was no secret that Tina's stuff was so good because she was taking her frustrations out on stage.
Nutbush City Limit when I was a little kid.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was like all these songs that I'm talking about never, like in the late 60s to mid 70s until like maybe the disco changed, they were staples on radio. They just never went away. You'd always hear like Proud Mary, like, every day you'd hear it somewhere. It was just like never would go away. It was like that popular. So Nutbush City Limit was a lot of fun. And
yes, sir.
So the Tina Turner deal was very easy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This was the easiest one. Private Dancer.
And for my album, it is that Private Dancer album. That album, that album came out in 84. So at this point, I'm 24 years old now. So I've had a chance to see some of the old stuff. And then when that album dropped, it really like, okay, this is who Tina Turner is. This is that woman. So that is the love and the things that I have for Tina. Just an incredible survivor. And I'm glad she's still here with us. And she was able to deliver her story. They just did a little thing, Tina, where they showed you some live clips and kind of told the story. I want to say it was like a 2-hour type thing, like a documentary type. It was awesome. I watched that thing about 3 times because I saw things I didn't know about her, and I was just flabbergasted to see the whole breadth of her story and how it turned out. So that is my Tina for you.
Even when she does a ballad, like one of my favorite tunes of hers is Private Dancer. Again, she know how to tell a story. She know how to paint a picture and give you the emotional burst, where they're supposed to be.
To me, she will always be a rock and roller at heart. She became a media darling. Then she told her story that put her into a whole nother stratosphere. People kind of looked at Ike with this negative view, but let's give Ike a little bit of his flowers because he did introduce us to the world and got her onto the big stage where then she took it and ran with it.
She just made it clear that she didn't want to be R&B. She wanted to be rock and roll. She wanted to do rock and roll. And that's cool. She could do it. I mean, she could, she was a rock and roll person to me.
She did whatever she wanted. When she came back with Private Dancer, that record, it's a rock album. It's got some edgy sort of alternative stuff on it. The Fix was on, like 2 or 3 tracks, Jamie West Oram and Cy Curran on Better Be Good to Me, and I Might Have Been Queen, and she was doing sort of all this cool, edgy stuff. It wasn't just radio filler. She was trying to like make a big comeback. She was making some great music, All
right, where's Tina?
It's over. Episode 6 of the R&B Divas is complete, and we love and adore the divas in this series. I want to thank all the entertainers who have graciously given their time and effort and energy into this project. Is there a room for an R&B Divas 2 out there, or an R&B Teddy Bear series part 2? Give us your feedback. We'd love to hear about it. The R&B series is over. Everyone have a great day. And subscribe to Something Came From Baltimore. End of episode. Gerald Albright, Priya Schneider, Charlie Hunter, Duke Robillard, Sean Jones, Walter Beasley, Steve Swallow. Something Came From Baltimore is a jazz, blues, and R&B podcast and radio show, and it's not really about Baltimore. Subscribe to the podcast and listen to your favorite artist or future favorite artist. That's Something Came From Baltimore, and be a part of that Be More music scene. Joe Lovano, Jeff Coffin, Paula Cole, Danuzo Makatani, Ann Passio, Ches Smith, Thumbscrew, mostly.